Welcome back to the Transtar podcast. This is part 2 of our discussion with Dave Ritzko from Transtar Industries in regards to CVT transmissions. In this part, we're going to get a little bit more in depth. We're even going to discuss programming transmission modules for CVT transmissions. Dave, let's get right into it. What are some of the failure signs in terms of codes and noises and customer reported symptoms that shops need to keep in the back there to listen for what the customer will say if they actually give you the truth?
Chatter.
Chatter.
Chatter is a big word. Slipping and chatter
Okay.
are two big things you'll hear, because when you start losing pressure, these are way more critical than your typical automatic. You'll get belt slip. You will get different apply. When you go to put it in gear, you'll get a different hesitation feel.
Okay.
The pump, again, the earlier models, way worse than the later ones, but the early models, the pump was, the flow control valve was scoring up and sticking. Again, where does all your debris go? When that little toilet paper cartridge filter or the pleated filter clogs up, some of that stuff start bypassing, because once it's full, it's got to bypass.
Yeah.
It goes in. First place it goes is the pump. You score that valve up, kiss of death.
Wow.
That then starts. But then soft, and I'll call them that, soft valve bodies, just valve wear. Back in the day, the 350s and that valve, when it shifted, it moved.
Yep.
And then it moved back. And then it moved. You didn't have valve wear. Everything today is PWM, pulse width modulated. It's
cool.
That, just buzzes in. Well, again, I'm no engineer, and I know most mechanics, they smile, when you talk engineers, because it's like they build the car around it, and it looks good on paper, looks good on a test track, put it in real life, and that's where you find. And one beautiful thing I love about the aftermarket, we fix all that. We will find a way. There's nothing we can't fix in the aftermarket.
Yeah. We'll always come up with a solution, a part set, a kit to fix something. It's amazing looking at these, how much this has changed versus a conventional transmission. Manual transmissions are almost gone.
I like to call them snowmobiles.
Yeah.
If you had a snowmobile, you give it gas, it goes faster. You let off, it goes slower. This is the main thing. One pulley opens, one pulley closes. Got big circle, big little circle, and it's continuously variable. And that's all it is. So if you can talk yourself out of anything, and I've done it, like, man, it's going to be, yeah. And then you take it to someone, or you have someone come over and you're watching them and go, I could have done that, because you talked yourself out. Simple is good. Think simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Another big mistake, it's a peeve of mine, again, programming. Guys do it, and they do it with these step transmissions. And again, if it works for you, really, it works for you. There was an old feller, he was in the tech business for a long time, Dale England, rest in peace. He said, if you rub crap on the hood and it works, keep rubbing crap on the hood. Again, if it works for you, let it work for you. But here's something to keep in mind and think about this. You should always update the programming. If you don't, was it the old programming that made it fail? Question 1. Was it the old programming? When you're letting it learn by itself, or you're letting it initialize by itself, or you're letting it shift out all the bad problems, how much damage is being done? Some learn real quick. You go around, within 10 miles, it's done. There's no more going around the block. You better drive and put some miles on these puppies. So now you got one, man, it took 100 or so miles. How much damage happened to the frictions, to the belt, to the pull? Well, it started slipping. The more I drove it, the better it got. Really. I have to question that mentality. And again, it's me. If it's working for you, please, I don't want to insult anybody, but start thinking that sometimes you're having these failures, it might be self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And think, if I'm getting this, and it's going to fail right away? Absolutely not. It's 8 months, 9 months, just under warranty, and it comes back. Well, then you're going to blame the friction, you're going to blame the oil, you're going to blame the part, is that the one? And maybe write it on your RO.
Yeah.
This one, long time to learn. This one learned quick. Put it as a note and look back.
Speaking of self-inflicted, let's talk about fluid. For a shop, how many grades of CVT transmission fluid do they need to have on hand, would you say?
There's only really a couple.
Okay.
One, well, every manufacturer has their own elixir. There are a couple, and I do not say universal. They're multi-fit, because when you say universal, that means they fit everything, and they don't. There's some Honda models with stop clutches that you can't put typical CVT. It takes their own. The Ford had their own. Do not run anything but Ford fluid in that one. It'll overheat and cause all kinds of issues. But everybody has their own little thing. And by the way, CVT fluid is not typical transmission fluid because the pressures are super high. It's more metal to metal, so it has different properties, different additives than a typical transmission fluid.
Checking levels on a CVT, just like a regular automatic transmission?
Yes, some will have a dipstick, very few. They've got away from that, which I sure wish they'd bring them back. It was so nice. Plus, it's kind of good for the shop, because if a guy can't check his own, you get to check it and charge. Yep. But one of the things about it, they have standpipes in the pan. There'll be a tube that sticks up yay much on the inside, and it'll have a little plug in the middle of it. You pull that little plug out. If it drips out, it's full. One good thing is you can't really overfill them, because you keep pumping in until it pours out. When it pours out, it's kind of like an old stick where you put your finger in. And then there's other ones that have a little thing where you can stick your finger in the back of it, and more like an old standard transmission check.
So, talking about the fluid, as far as the circuit on the vehicle, these have a transmission cooler, but some of them don't use air passing through it. They use a fluid to oil type of transmission cooler.
Like the old radiator types.
Yeah.
They have, they call it a puck type.
Okay.
And it'll have antifreeze or coolant running through it with the fluid running through it. And it'll have a couple O-rings that mount to it. So it's not cooled so much by air as it's cooled by the coolant.
Okay.
Now, one thing a lot of these units have now is these bypasses. And what the thermal bypass does, they want these things to warm up as fast as possible, because when you're at operating temperature, everything works a little better. So what they'll absolutely do is bypass either the air cooler or bypass the puck type cooler, and it goes straight into transmission. As it starts heating, that bypass will open, and now you get your full flow. There's actually in the aftermarket, if you're in Minnesota, if you're up north, Canada, where it gets cold and you really don't have summer until August, and you have it for about 2 weeks, and then you're ice fishing in October, you kind of want to leave all that alone.
Okay.
If you're in Texas, Florida, South, where it's really warm, hot most of the time, they have aftermarket that you can pull off the OE, put an aftermarket on, and then run an air cooler to it. So they have that. Nissans will have that. Volkswagens have that kind of thing. And again, you got to remember where the car is living. So some of the things people do up in Minnesota, you necessarily don't want to do down in Florida. If you take off bypasses in Minnesota, actually in the winter, you could turn your fluid to jelly because it's not getting warmed up, because you're cooling it from the time you open or fire it up. It's cooling.
Okay.
You want it to warm. And then there's people that say you shouldn't warm a car in cold weather. Oh, start it and go. I still think, my opinion, I think you should let a car warm up just a little bit, because the engine oil has to get up.
Yep.
The transmission fluid has to go, and it just won't work. With these new fluids, though, even oil, they come out with these 10-speeds have ultra low viscosity because they want it to flow from the word get-go.
Yeah.
So it don't take much to warm them up. And, so you got to kind of watch the fluid depending on where you live. Don't mix. Experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
But usually experiment on your own, not a customer's.
That's true. And, a lot of these systems even have preheaters for a lot of the stuff. Or BMW had that recent car that was warming the transmission fluid with a sort of a heater that went around some of the exhaust system. So the faster they can get it up to temperature, the lower the startup emissions.
Absolutely.
So hybrids. Vehicles using CVT transmissions. I think Honda and also Toyota have applications.
Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Subaru. Subaru has now Subaru CVT. That's a little bit different. It's a CVT, but it's a big C. These things are little go-kart type things.
Yeah.
And when you get in some of them Subarus, they're some monster. They're a little bit. They have the diff inside of them too, whereas this, it's a transaxle. It's a small diff. Subaru still kind of uses a for real type diff setup. So Subaru, you want to tackle one of these first before you start tackling a Subaru. But they're out there and they're not going away either. And then one thing you got that's coming, you say CVT, continuously variable. Toyota has it, when you're looking at it and it says CVT, it's continuously variable. I might call it an EVT, electrically variable, because they're not pulleys, they're two electric motors in there. But Toyota still calls them a CVT.
Okay.
So you kind of got to watch the name on it. They might even say eCVT. And you're thinking, well, electronic CVT, it's got No, it's actually like a giant washing machine. It's a golf cart. I call this a snowmobile. I call that a golf cart. Now, one thing I will warn, and I love to have fun. I joke about a lot of stuff. If you're going to work on like a Toyota Prius that has an EVT in it, please do your homework and be safe. Wear the gloves. Make sure you kill it out before you start playing, because, again, you might have touched a battery, jump the starter, get a little shock, it kind of lights you up. Prius can end your life. So really, I don't even like kidding with them. I would shy away because I'm no electrical guy. I love parts like this. I peeled a couple down, but I'm not, I don't know. Plus, you got to have different kind of tools to work with them. I would shy away from them, me.
Yeah.
Just, younger, I would jump in it because that's what's coming.
True.
But an old guy like me, my heart ain't that good no more,
Well, they say that anything over 50 volts DC will stop your heart, speaking of your heart. And that's why, we see everything below 24 volts and 12 volts is, anything over 50 or I think it's 45 actually. And yeah, take your time working on those vehicles. Look at the service information. I think every single automaker that does a hybrid has a first responder thing that also has the technical information on how to detach the battery pack if you're going to do some other work and depower stuff. But that's definitely the future. I mean, CVT is kind of made for being able to switch between an electric motor and an internal combustion. It works out great.
One of the things that CVT really came out for, everything they're doing is really fuel economy. The cafe stand, trying to hit that mark. They'll have the small cars that get 50 miles a gallon, and that way you can produce more big cars that get 10 miles to a gallon. They're doing it because in a CVT it goes faster, so the RPMs pretty much stay steady. When you get into a step transmission, again, more speeds keep them closer. Anytime that tach does this, it's fuel economy. And really, I over the life of the vehicle, it could be a lot. But you're talking a little bit. But a little bit over a whole array of cars over the lifetime. That's a lot of fuel you're saving. Yeah. So it's all about fuel economy. But I see so many people shy away. They're not going away. And if you want to do it, one of the things I say, cores are everywhere now. There's a lot of core. Get your core, peel it down.
Yeah.
Feel comfortable, put it back together. Look for the stuff. Look for what's going to go. I know in the first couple I took apart, you don't know when you take that nut off, there's a spring in here. Not all of them, but the majority. And when you go to pop it, you don't know how. It's a meaty spring. But you leave the nut on it.
Yep.
And it'll pop. The noise will scare you more than the stuff. But again, take it, just let yourself feel comfortable. I see guys put them together and then they try to put the bolts to bolt the variators. One thing I learned, and I actually learned it off of forum, is you keep the puller on there, keep the pressure off the belt, and now you can manipulate it a little bit easier. One thing about these belts, right on the edge here are bands.
Okay.
That holds all these little pieces together. If you snap them bands, that belt's coming apart. It's the first one, and it was just to play with. I'm glad it wasn't a customer's car, because you couldn't buy belts, and I was doing, and that thing come off, and all them little pieces. And I put it back together. I made a little jig and put it. They're directional, as you can see right here.
Okay.
There's an arrow on it. They have to go one way, which means these things are directional. When I put it together, started looking at it, you can see. So again, if you break one, they don't like flexing, so take it easy on the belt and assemble it. And once you pretty much get this together, you've got this animal. This is the hardest part of it. And it's really, you're looking at it, it's not that hard. It's the fear of the unknown, we'll call it that.
Kind of wrap things up with this podcast, I got 2 questions for you. What's the most common call that you get at Transtar about CVT transmissions from out in the field and that you see out in the field? And what is the most unbelievable story that you could think of that has involved a CVT transmission?
Well, probably the most one is, do you have a flow control valve?
Wow.
That is like adding fluid to it. You should put the flow control valve in, and I don't care what supplier you use, who makes them, they all make great products. The pump. Make that pump happy, because that, again, like a human body, if your heart ain't working, nothing's working. Keep that part working. One of the first CVTs that I helped a guy do, it was a lady, not much money, had a troop of kids, and she come rolling in, and we looked at it and we're like, oh. And it was barely getting by. She said that she didn't have money, and we knew it was bad. So we took it apart, and it was bad. We couldn't find parts. So we actually took the pulleys. They have little balls in there that will allow to slide, to roll. They actually thought it was the balls collapsing, so then they made rollers. So one of the first things we did is we took it down to a machine shop we knew. We had them cut the grooves deeper because the balls had chewed up, and we made steel rods. And we put them in, and they have to be hardened. You can't use regular. It has to be super hard steel. 58 to 62 on the Rockwell would be good, bearing hard. And we put this together, and we did a Hail Mary, and it actually worked. And we were sitting a couple weeks later, and this lady rolled up, and I wanted to turn the shop lights off and run. And she come up and brought us cookies. She said it's never worked this good. So you can cobble stuff on these. I don't recommend it, but it was the way, and that's how you had to do it. Like I said, when they first come out, you couldn't get parts. You had to take 2, 3 to make a good one. Yeah. Kind of like I did growing up in cars. I'd buy 2, 3 cars, make one good one out of it. So, but they're not bad. Please don't be scared of them, please.
Yeah. And as far as parts that are available, Transtar?
Parts are widely available now. You can get valve bodies, you can get solenoids separate, you can get the pump components separate. before you can buy this. If it's trash, you can buy this whole unit just like this. You can buy just the pulleys. You can buy just a belt. The bearings are even available now, which before you couldn't get them. So the bearings, and again, high pressure kind things, the bearings will go bad. That you'll start hearing growling noises. Well, anytime you put metal, because the metal's coming off the belt into the bearings, bearing goes bad too. So really kind of just watch yourself. Cleanliness, be clean.
Yeah.
Be clean when you do it. And make money because it's there. There's tons of them out there. Tons of them out there. Don't be shot. You know, again, like any other unit, you're going to get a few hiccups. It's a learning curve. Take it as I'm getting an education, not that I'm losing money, and you win every time.
You cannot put a price on education.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Anything else you'd like to add, Dave?
Just don't be scared of them. It's easy. If I was actually going to get back into transmissions and wrench again, I'd be a CVT specialist. Just because people don't like to do them, there'd be an abundance for me to do.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Dave and also Transtar Industries for sponsoring this podcast. Look for future podcasts in regards to other transmission topics, AC, chassis, and other components in the Transtar portfolio.